I've seen a bullet flying out of a barrel, headed for my forehead. On just the bullet, on the top of the bullet, I think I saw Yamaraj. Maybe I was high, I don't know. But it ricocheted through the car frame. And when we checked the frame, it was meant for my forehead. And I'm alive to tell about it.
Wow.
And it was a 44 Magnum, nice
Wow.
looking 44 Magnum. And, all these close encounter, scary situations, um, I did have some fear, but I still had some faith in Krishna.
Mm.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Sridham Mayapur in West Bengal, India, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath. And our co-host is not here, Mr. Kostuba. We're having a special interview day today. Welcome to the show. This is episode 1531. And today's February 6th, 2025. Miss Mara, good morning.
Good morning.
It's actually good afternoon here, but you know the protocol. Mara, any announcements before we start? We got a special guest we ran into that I thought this guy's going to be great on the podcast. So we captured him.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that tomorrow's show will also be an interview, and that'll be at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Saturday, instead of doing Sleep-In Saturday, we're back to the 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time slot.
So let's get this straight. Tomorrow's a peculiar time.
It's Friday, 8 a.m.
It's Sleep-In Friday. So if you have work, you can just call your boss, say, I'm sleeping in. Because we're having tomorrow's special interview. We have 3 scientists.
They're like an astrophysicist, a PhD astronomer. Yeah. They're like high-level scientists.
High-level scientists, and they're all working on this Temple of the Vedic Planetarium, which is quite fascinating.
Mm.
It's like, most of us have been to a planetarium, the New York Planetarium, etc. Imagine a planetarium scientifically made from the vision of the Vedic paradigm. Like, what are the layers of the heavens and the devas and the devis, the gods and goddesses? And I'm super interested to pick their brain. And one of them knew from Italy, and one I just met. And they said there's another lady that's here. So we're bringing on a bunch of scientists, and then you get to ask all our UFO questions to them as well.
Especially since Kostuba won't be here.
So and Saturday at 6:30 a.m., we have Sitala, who is one of these old school lady devotees who just gave up everything for Srila Prabhupada. And she's got such a great story. We were just having a chat with her the other day, and I could have talked to her for hours. Such an interesting lady. She's got a great YouTube channel, but she's going to be on the show. We're really looking forward to that too. Mara, and Sunday no show.
Yep.
Sunday no show.
That's a lot to remember.
Any other announcements, Miss Mara?
No, that's all I got.
Okay. All right. So let's bring on Govinda. Hare Krishna, Govinda. Welcome to the show, Prabhu. This is yours. You get to hold that. Remember the rules. Get right in here so we can see you. Scoot a little. Now, you can't tell Govinda because from the angle. No, you got to see. That's you right there. You got to get right in next to me, brother. Yes. So I had the good fortune of running into Govinda yesterday. He's a personal security for Jai Patak Swami and the whole Mayapur project. Is that correct?
Not the whole Mayapur project, but security department. I'm there serving.
Security department. I'm going to ask you to keep it just a little closer because I actually have a bigger mouth than you. Now, he's got a great story because he grew up with a Manipur mother.
Yeah, Manipuri mother.
Manipur mother. And for those who don't know Manipur, it's a state of India across the Bay of Bengal that, do you know, was it Srinivasacharya went there? One of the great disciples, the next generation after Lord Chaitanya, maybe it was Narottam, I can't remember, but they went there and they spread not just worship of Krishna, but the worship of Lord Chaitanya. And they have I had the good opportunity to go one year.
Yeah, there is stories about Lord Chaitanya's pastime there actually also.
And there's a
So,
big Manipur community
yeah,
at Radhakund.
yeah, Radhakund.
And so, and it's, foothills of Himalayas, maybe near Assam, near
Yeah.
Nagaland, and all these
Yeah.
states you don't hear about so much, but there's a big, thriving Vaishnava community. So, your mother's from Manipur, father's from
West Bengal.
West Bengal. So
Yeah.
that's where we are right now. And you somehow ended up in Chicago and ended up from such a pristine family in a gang.
Yeah.
And so his story is really sort of another hero's journey of born into this pious religious family, and then due to association got in a gang,
Yeah.
went through hell,
Yeah.
most likely, and probably learned a lot of valuable lessons. So why don't you start from the beginning, like growing up and moving to America?
So in the 2000, we moved. My father actually got sponsored because he was a really good chef. His name is Vishwakarma Das.
Mhm.
He started his spiritual journey here in Sri Mayapur. He left college, ran away from home,
Wow.
and then started serving here. And then he moved to ISKCON Juhu,
Okay.
and then he was brought there to cook, and through his cooking and his service to Shri Radharas Bihari Ji, he got the fortune to go to America, like all Indians dream of.
Right. And in American temples,
Yeah.
to get like a Bengali chef, that is like all their problems are solved right there. Because it's not like it's not something they learn. It's something they're like almost born
Yeah.
into cooking.
Yeah, they need it. A lot of temples they need pujaris and chefs in the early 2000s. So my father moved there. We moved there. He moved in '97 actually, and then eventually he brought us there in 2000.
And how old were you?
I was 10 years old.
All right.
10
So
years
10
old.
years
Yeah.
old, first time in America.
First time in America, fresh off the boat.
And where did you grow up? In Mayapur?
No, I grew up in Juhu for 10 years.
Okay. You grew up in the temple. Your
Yeah,
parents
in the
lived
temple.
in the temple.
Yeah, we never left the temple.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
even in
it's a-
Chicago.
So that's a
Yeah.
very, a very conservative way to be brought up as a little child. The next step is, how did you go from being brought up in a very strict Vaishnava family? I'll say
Mm.
very strict because you grew up
Yeah.
inside the temple walls, like the young Buddha almost, you know what I
Not
mean?
even that, like Indian family. Yeah.
In a strict Indian family. And then you're going to Chicago. Now, this is the classic ISKCON Chicago temple, Kishore that I've been to. So how did you go from 10-year-old there to in a gang? I can't understand that leap.
Well, I didn't join the gang at 10 years, but I had the association of a lot of gang members, going to a public school,
That'll do it.
associating. That's where they're actually recruit at the library. They recruit.
They recruit at the library.
Yeah. all the kids there studying, like, hey, you seem like a good candidate. What do you do?
I'm 10 years old. I do nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, you're in. So, and it's just through association, through friendship,
association.
through
Yeah, and then you see, gradually getting to high school, you start to see your friends, in gangs or, in opposition gangs, and you have desires, in teen years, you want to party, you want to do drugs, you want women, you want to live the lifestyle, have cars.
all the stuff that comes with puberty in America.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so it's just sort of like, it was not like a switch that you flicked. It was just
Mm.
gradual association, and you just pull towards,
Right.
truthfully, I can just see it as camaraderie almost.
Yes. I was being bullied, for being Indian. I didn't have a really good American accent before.
So you look actually sort of like you're like a Mexican,
Yeah.
but I guess with the Manipur mixed with Bengali, that sort of can pass
Yeah,
off it as
yeah.
well.
So I was in a Mexican gang, one of the biggest super gangs next to the MS-13s. It's called the Latin Kings. The motherland was in Chicago, the south side of Chicago, a little village. The organization started in the 1940s
Mm.
to protect, the brown people to protect the Latino people.
Hmm.
And then
Did they care that you weren't Mexican?
no, actually they didn't. They accepted everyone because they were outcasts before.
Right.
So there was a lot of gang problems in the 40s, in the 60s, because all these groups, the immigrants that were coming over and they were being bullied and whatnot.
Sure.
So
I think it was very tribal in
yeah,
America back
yeah, it
then.
was.
Even my parents will tell me they grew up in the New York City, and Italians just hung with Italians, and you didn't marry into the Irish. You
Right.
didn't marry into Jews. It was just tribal after tribal and neighborhood and boundaries, and you didn't cross that line. But I'm more interested, and it also than not the details of the gang, but these very common things of moving towards, it just actually seems very, very normal. Like people want to be loved, people want to be accepted, people want to be protected, and then your teenage ego kicks in, like you want lots of respect. It makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. I was being bullied. So, every day it's like, it was building up. It was building up gradually. And then I was actually really against being in gangs. They tried and tried. And every time I used to be like, what are you going to do with me? I'm not strong. I'm just a short Indian kid,
Right.
I'm just a short Indian kid. I don't know I actually never knew anything about gangs before.
Sure.
So, all this was new to me, even growing up. Um, but you know it got to a point in after high school. There were some of my friends who went to an opposite gang, and they were not happy that I was hanging around with these certain type of people.
Mm.
And they started to.
There were opposing gangs in the same school.
Right. We all come from the same grade school, but
Right.
in high school, like I don't know what they ate or
People
what got
went
into
their
their head.
own
Yeah, on
ways.
their own direction, and it really kicked in after high school, 2009, and that's when I really kind of had to make a decision where do I what do I do now? What do I do? Do I join my people that I knew since my childhood. I don't want to be bullied, this and that. So every time, I used to get bullied or beat up, it was just building up, gradually building up, and finally I made my decision to like fully surrender.
Wow. It's like a religious experience.
It is. It is.
But was there any pullback from, now this is a community, I get it. This is like brotherhood, I get it. But is there was where was your family or the Krishna community? Were there Krishna kids that you were friends with? Or was it just like that was vacant?
I mean, Sunday school,
Yeah,
that was like the only time I had association with,
sure.
devotee kids. And I think association really matters when you are growing up as a child.
I think so
It
too.
really does. Because, it's like someone told me it's like the devil's workshop,
Sure.
an empty mind. And then, that's when they get you. Um, I didn't have a lot of devotee association.
Sure. It's hard to, even if you got cool parents or even if you got cool, it's hard to relate to adults.
It is.
You want friends, you want
Yeah.
girlfriends, you want,
Yeah, you want the whole American experience. So I think I
Sure.
was infatuated by that.
yeah, it's quite enticing. It's a
It is.
mousetrap.
It is.
It's
It is. Um, you know, uh,
And so was there any option to say, you know what, I don't want to join this gang? Was that even an option? Or was you just sort of like join or else? Or was it no, actually, you guys are fun.
no, it was almost like self-surrender.
Hmm.
They never forced me.
Sure.
They gave me the option. Hey, we know each other for a while. We're friends.
Hmm.
We hang around with the same people.
Sure.
You know, just come home. Come home to this this family. And I took that decision, knowing what I was getting get into, um, being fully prepared. And
And
I,
so how low did you go? I mean, when you talk of gangs, generally we think of, it depends. I know there's sophisticated gangs
yeah.
that run like organized crime, that run like
Mhm.
businesses,
Yeah.
and then of course there's a couple thugs on the street that just bully. But your gang was more like like a
Organized.
meticulous
Yeah,
organization.
yeah. We were an organized gang with a manifesto, with structure, the whole pyramid scheme of leadership
Okay.
and ranks, etc., whatnot. So everything was methodically thought by the
Mm.
founding acharya of this gang. So he created this within the prison system. His name is Gustavo Colon, aka Lord Gino. That's what we call him. So there's many documentaries about our gangs, on Google. You can look it up.
Mm.
There was a show called Gangland,
Oh yeah,
and
that's right.
that's where it was. Uh, it opened up a little bit more about how the gang ran, who's at the top, what their activities were,
Sure.
you know.
And did you have to cross any personal maybe ethical boundaries of yourself, or were you completely and where did it take you? And was it problematic, or was it something like I can do this?
Um, I think being bullied, you bottle up a lot of
Sure.
anger.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't have a punching bag, like boxers, they have punching bags. So they know how to control their anger. They're releasing it on a
Sure.
daily basis somewhere. But bottled anger is different.
Yeah.
And childhood trauma is different. When you bottle everything inside, it explodes.
I was bullied. Seventh grade, I went from an innocent childhood of from K through 6, and then seventh grade, you went to the middle school, and that was just I was a punching bag, and I had to like figure out. And a lot of my friends just became invisible.
Yeah.
I'm just going to become invisible and hope no one notices
That's what
me.
I don't like.
And what do you call it? I learned to box, and then I became a bully. And that's the
Yeah.
only way I could deal with it. And I was already small. I didn't have a lot of money. There weren't really gangs in my school, but it was a very racially mixed group. And it was like a poor white kid. And that's how I learned. And then I got into punk from there. But it was reactionary. And I could understand that yeah, maybe if I was in your situation, I would have done the same
Yeah,
thing.
I was in like the punk scene a little bit too, like
Mm.
heavy metal,
Yep.
wearing all black, going to mosh pits, like that was one of my ways to, get my anger out. But it just progressively got worse,
So how did it get different after high school?
After high school, you really don't have anything to do. You're just riding around with your boys, looking for problem, but we try not to look for problem.
It seems like in an organized crime, you're actually on a mission more.
Yeah, it's like you're doing like patrolling, neighborhood patrolling, like this invisible area that you own, that you really don't own. And a lot of people, have this misconception about gangs, but like my gang, we were not thugs and like we didn't like harm like elderly people, women and children. We were all against that, and it's still been being upheld till this day. And if you broke those rules, you would get apprehended by your own people. That would be a 2-minute beating from head to toe.
Wow.
Yeah. And we had this whole initiation process also. Like we aspired, to become a disciple, take diksha. Same thing in the gang life, First you take your IDC course, then you take your first diksha, second initiation. Yeah, so
What is initiating into
so
in a particular
initiating
gang?
is basically for my experience, I had to use a gun and go into a different neighborhood and show that I was not afraid. And I think it came natural to me. I didn't flinch. Um, and from then on, that point, they understood like, oh, this guy's
He's serious.
yeah, he's
He's
serious about us.
trustworthy.
Yeah, he's trustworthy. He can be one of our, initiating members.
Wow.
So, and then you get a head to toe beating. That's 5 minutes actually, but they give you in 2 sessions because 2 minutes feels like 2 hours,
Sure.
and it's not by one person; it's by
Many.
10. sometimes 15.
Is it something you could not feasibly not recover from?
They won't.
Concussions or
Yeah,
broken bones
they
or
won't beat you until the point you can't move, but they'll beat you to see your tolerance.
huh?
Just check your humility. Check, if you got it in you.
Sure.
So these are tests of trials. They'll send you on missions, and then you have to show your loyalty. And if you don't hiccup anywhere,
Yeah.
they already sense like, okay, it's like being in the gang. You develop a sixth sense.
It's like going through the military. It's
It
like
is.
going through like hell week on football, but it's like
Yeah.
it's taken up a notch, taken up
Yeah,
to 11 or something
of
like
course.
that. Or
Yeah,
if you're going for the Navy SEALs,
yeah,
it's
of
like
course, of
we're gonna
course.
drop you in the ocean. The boat's gonna drive away, and we'll see you in 24 hours.
Yeah, I would describe myself like Joe Pesci. I don't know if you know Joe
Yeah.
Pesci from Goodfellas
Yeah.
and like other movies. Like that was me, like angry, super angry, and
Mm.
like even sometimes my brothers they were like, "You need to tone down a little bit."
What happens if you get what happens if you get angry at people that are within that brotherhood?
Um, it has to be a good reason. We have our own like court system,
Sure.
like we have a judge, we have an attorney, we have lawyers, we have a jury,
This
everything.
sounds like a good gag. Were they? Am I too old to get? You're selling it
good.
to me now.
Yeah. I mean, that's how they got me in. They sold it. Um, I mean, they do have a lot of good core values. That's
Yeah.
what it was based.
And that's attractive.
Yeah, it is. It
Eh,
is. It is.
It's attractive to have first of all, it's attractive a community. Then it's attractive to have structure.
Yeah.
Then it's good to have sort of like enforcers, especially if you're one of the vulnerables,
Yeah.
especially if they have some ethics that resonate with you, like don't beat down on women and children.
Yeah.
Okay, that's reasonable, because on the streets you see the craziest thing and you think
Yeah.
there should be justice here. And I'm not seeing the regular police do the justice.
Of course.
There should be justice. I can understand how that's appealing.
Yeah, a lot of it. That's what I'm saying. A lot of people have misconceptions about people who are in this lifestyle. They're not all bad people. They have families. They have children. They have wives. Uh, and they go accordingly. They live life accordingly. It's not like what you see in the movies. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna bust out a gun and and start shooting publics. That's not how we uphold.
Sure. And I'm
our
sure every different brotherhood or gang
gang.
has their own ethics.
Yeah, of course. There were ones where they won't care if you're women, children, old men,
Sure.
whatever. They'll do you in.
So where did it go south for you, or did it go south?
Well,
Did it go south, or did you just say, I need a different lifestyle? Or
So through the gang, you get introduced to a lot of drugs. I got into cocaine. That was to be very honest, that was my favorite.
your drug of choice?
Yeah,
Okay.
very because Mexican gang.
Yeah.
Mexican. So cocaine, marijuana was like the introduction,
Sure.
basically in high school. Cocaine was next, then acid.
How old were you when you first did anything more than marijuana?
Marijuana.
More than marijuana.
I would say 19.
Okay. So when you were a little bit
19,
older.
20-ish,
All right. So your childhood was still reasonably innocent then.
Right. It was not so innocent, but
Okay. So
Yeah.
19, 20, you started a harder drugs.
yeah. And then, in the tattoo shop, because I'm a tattoo artist.
Okay.
So when I joined the tattoo shop, I met other people. You get a lot of different types of characters
That come in there. Yeah.
So they were introducing me to drugs. You barter sometimes
Sure.
in the industry, and I got introduced to methamphetamine,
Wow.
and that was like I would at that time it was like an eye opener. I was like, oh, cocaine is nothing. This new thing is even better. But what that does is psychologically messes you up.
Mm. By the way, you're dealing with a guy who's never done drugs.
Yeah, I know that.
I've smoked pot before, but
I know.
I can't even tell you how
Yeah.
many times. A couple of few times.
Yeah, it gets worse. I've heard from many different devotees who have used like acid or something. This one Prabhu, he saw Lord Brahma. I was like, what? Before he even joined this con, actually.
Sure. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, And then when he actually saw, I forgot this one book he saw with Lord Brahma.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, I recognize that guy, you
From
know, from my high days." And like, that's the guy that told me you're never allowed here. Yeah, so you can't cheat your way into spirituality.
Yeah, I'm with you on that because a lot of people are bringing this the benefits of psychedelics
Yeah.
into the world, and I think they're even, and me, who's Mr. Straight Edge guy, I can see how there could be a place in people with chronic disease, people with anxiety or depression or something, some microdosing or macrodosing. I don't know enough about it because it's not my field of even
Mhm.
interest, but I think there's some use for it, or even people who are struggling with intense type of pain. There might be some use for that. But I think for some quick way to God, I don't think it's.
No.
I'm not. I don't. I
Yeah.
believe that people have had paradigm shifting understandings of reality.
Right.
Like but ultimately, I believe that God's behind it all, and you
Right.
don't also need that drug to find God.
Exactly.
God is there. But enough of the glorification of
Yeah.
our drugs. Let's
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
where did they go wrong for you and not serve you? Did you ever become addicted to any of the
Yeah,
drugs?
I became addicted to
Uh,
methamphetamine.
oh, really? Okay.
And I had to pull myself out of that by myself because everyone almost gave up on me except for my mom.
Wow.
Shout out to my mom.
Thanks to
Mothers
moms.
are, they'll never leave you. They'll
Love
never
to
leave
good
you.
mothers out there.
Yeah, she believed it in me, you know, till the end, Um, I started to see a lot of different things,
Mhm.
scary things, and it actually makes you, uh, you get this paradigm shift of like what is real and what's not real,
Sure.
and you get confused. And once I was off of it, and I started to chant a little bit more because when you're in Krishna conscious, when you're born into it, you
Right.
don't value it. Krishna's right
Sure.
there in front of you.
Krishna's right there. The temple's right there. The devotees
It's
are there.
there.
They're all ordinary.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. You don't value it. And I think me having these experiences made me really realize the importance of Krishna in our life.
Why is that?
Uh, just through experiences, a lot of bad experiences,
Mm.
and like I got into an accident. And that accident, the day after, I was paralyzed neck down.
Oh wow.
And in the hospital, I was actually crying for the first time. And
How old were you?
I think I was 21. No, wait, 23-ish, something like that.
Is
And
it car accident or a?
car accident, my favorite car,
Oh.
a Nissan 350Z, my dream
Mhm.
car. It hit me, and then I was paralyzed in the hospital. I was begging to Krishna. I was like,
Wow.
please give me one more chance. I'm such a
Oh, wow.
rascal. Like you're there every day for me. And like I was born in a devotee
All
family,
right.
and
So you still had some type of shraddha, some faith that Krishna is
yeah,
God. You did
yeah,
through it all.
yeah. Through it all, like
That's so good to know.
even when I used to get high, even when I used to commit some sins, I used to always remember Nrsimhadev. Like I used to go to shootouts while I'm shooting someone or about to shoot someone. I used to be like, Nrsimhadev, I don't want to do this. I'm stuck in this life.
Mm.
Uh, keep them alive. Keep them alive. So every
Oh
time
wow.
we had some high speed chases with the police, and like I used to pray to Nrsimhadev internally, and
That is so
I'm
interesting.
here.
For me, when I first met you, I thought, wow, he must have had to shut down all of his connection with God to do, but no.
At one point, I became atheist. I really, really didn't believe in Krishna.
Mm.
But like as I saw the material problems arising, I think like slowly, I was going back to the roots.
And I know when you start when you open that first door,
Mm.
and that door leads to another chamber that has three more doors, and you open that door, it can be a very slippery slope down to some like hellish worlds
Yeah.
when once
Oh,
you
yeah.
start dealing with drugs, and
Yeah.
once you start, and then prostitutes come into it, and gambling comes into it, and violence, and like you are knee deep in the age of Kali real quick,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it becomes really scary.
Yeah, it does. It does. Especially with the enhancement of those drugs what it does to your brain and your mentality and your reality. You know, you seeing things that are not there, but you know, maybe spiritually, you know, it's there. These are like dark things
Sure.
that are manifested by Maya, which is there, and you see them through psychedelics. And I don't think you want to open those doors.
Right.
You
What
should
to speak of if you're addicted, and then
right
you will do anything to get that
anything,
fix.
anything.
You will kill, you'll rob, you
Yeah.
will do anything for it's like me first. And that and or if you're selling,
Yeah.
because
So
because that could take you to dark places too. You want to share anything about that?
yeah, actually, the girl I was with at that time, she was a little bit older than me, and she was selling the drugs.
Mm,
So it was like a free access, you know, all you want,
wow.
buffet, you know, whatever you want. So like I was using it, and then like I accidentally tried heroin by by accident. I didn't even know what it
Sure.
was. Because when you're in that addiction, you want anything that'll get you high. But I wasn't doing that for pleasure. I was doing that to forget my pain,
Sure.
and ultimately kind of outing myself, trying to.
Sure.
But
Um, what were some scary moments? And or were there moments where you just said, "This is over. This has to be over."
there's many instances, and I can't thank Lord Nrsimhadev for that. You know, enough
Mm,
to be honest. I've seen a bullet flying out of a barrel, headed for my forehead. On just the bullet, on the top of the bullet, I think I saw Yamaraj. Maybe I was high, I don't know, but it ricocheted through the car frame, and when we checked the frame, it was meant for my forehead, and I'm alive to tell about it.
wow.
And it was a 44 Magnum, nice
Wow.
looking 44 Magnum. And you know, all these close encounter scary situations, um I did have some fear, but I still had some faith in Krishna.
Mm.
And I don't know what I've done in my past life, or maybe it might just be the prayers of my parents that kept me alive.
You know what? It's so nice to sort of like reflect on all that. First of all, here's this nice Bengali boy, you know, with a Manipurian mother, you know, who is born practically every day in ashram, every day going to Mughal Artik, every day. I know I've seen devotee parents bring their kids to Mughal
Yeah,
Artik,
yeah,
for instance, their baby, hold their fingers while they're looking at the deities,
yeah.
give them their first grain ceremony, go through all the appropriate samskaras.
Yeah. Yeah, everything was there. The whole foundation was laid out. But, you know, Krishna consciousness is a choice.
Mm.
It's nothing that you can force into someone. You can't force it down someone's throat, you know?
Well, when I was a brahmachari, we had issues. See, I quote joined. They don't really say that anymore, but I joined when I was 22. I made an explicit decision to give up my old ways and to become a new way. And my peers and me, we never liked the second generation devotees because the second generation devotees took everything for granted.
Yeah.
They were just sort of like, oh, big deal. Oh, big deal. And that Swami, who cares about that Swami? Oh, I don't trust Swamis. They came with a type of cynicism. But I felt like I knew too much about the material world. You think you're cynical about these people? Well, you should come into my crazy world. Yeah, I'll teach you to be cynical about your. Oh, that Swami had sex. Are you kidding? Do you know the people that I grew up with? Big deal.
Yeah.
You know, so it's almost like we were furious that the second generation couldn't take it more serious. But I understand it because God comes to you, you know, when you are ripe to understand God. So if you told me something at 18, that fruit for me wasn't ripe. But at 22, I was fully ripe. The Bhagavad Gita makes 100% sense. I'm completely material exhausted. Now, some people don't get that till they're midlife, have
Right.
3 children, and they're like, what the hell am I doing with my life? What am I doing with my? And
Right.
some people get it when they're 78, like, what was my life all about? I've done everything. And some people never get that. Some people never get that spiritual epiphany. So you did it. You turned that corner. Some second generation devotees will never get that corner. It was their parents' thing. They joined a religion in the same way I grew up Catholic. And they have to get that that spark of actually the material world is nothing for me. I actually want something much more deeper than this world has to offer my heart. And it's beautiful. And maybe all this crazy insanity you went through, this little Hindu boy,
Yeah.
in one sense, you had to go through that hell on earth,
Yeah.
that almost like R-rated movie that you
Yeah.
lived through as a teenager
Yeah.
to get God.
Yeah, it's I think Krishna has connection with everyone, a special connection with everyone, and when he desires to reveal himself, he will.
Hmm.
So I feel like I'm a late bloomer, a very late bloomer. That's what I feel like. All of my friends, they're initiated and everything. Like I just got done with my DC course, so I'm aspiring to get it. My first Diksha, which I should have gotten when I was, in the 90s.
Whatever. It seems like you're using other people's measuring yardsticks to measure yourself. It's like a metric. You got the metric, and then you got the American one, and they're not the same. And like every person has their unique yardstick,
Yeah, I mean, it's actually like it. I'm inspired by them,
Sure.
Now I'm inspired by them because like they're younger devotees and they're getting, initiated. I'm like, I'm old, 33. What have I achieved? What have I done? Like, this is what I've been doing all my life.
You know what, man?
And
I appreciate it though, because you can speak in such a lucid way of your experience. There's no way the material world can really fool you now, because you've had to go through the darkest regions to deeply understand that. And sometimes we need that to step forward.
Yeah.
We need to like lose faith that there is hope in the mode of ignorance. There is hope in because mode of ignorance, mode of passion seem very attractive to a lot of people. All of America is running mad after it. So, I mean, you might have had to go through it and burn it out. And now you can explain it to people. You can explain it to people so they don't have to go through that. That's your blessing.
yes.
But I do like this thing you said about your parents, because I do believe there are some special, in my arrogant way, I like to think that, yes, I worked really hard to be a devotee, and I've studied this, and I went through this, and I gave up this. But I do believe there's prayers of people that love you that it can accelerate your spiritual life. And by having those loving parents.
Yeah, even your well wishers, there was this one devotee named Sevananda Prabhu, from Chicago, actually, a very humble devotee, African American devotee. He told me the concept of Radha Krishna, and this was like,
How old were you?
well, during my addiction when I was
Oh.
coming off of it.
Oh, wow.
So
you were still connected with the Chicago devotees then?
Some.
Okay.
Some of them who were really close with my parents.
Okay.
So Sevananda Prabhu told me, when a child gets hurt, right? Who does he call out to? He calls out to his mother and father, mommy, daddy,
Yeah.
daddy. And then he explained how we chant Hare Krishna. When we chant Hare Krishna, it's like mommy, daddy, mommy, daddy,
Daddy, daddy, mama,
daddy,
mama,
mommy.
mama,
Yeah.
daddy, mama, daddy,
So-
daddy, mama.
In that way, he explained that our parents are representative.
Oh, that's so nice.
And like that changed everything. Like my father and me, we never had a good relationship. He was engaged in devotional service all the time. So I can't blame him for, he gave me everything.
Parents, they hustle.
They had to do what they had to do,
Yeah.
Living in the temple. But he was super happy that I decided to leave everything. And like within a week, I came to Vrindavan during Kartik time. I didn't even know it was Kartik. That's how deep I was in Maya that I didn't even know it was Kartik.
Wait, you're saying I really want to hear how you got out of that world. Let's not skip that chapter.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good chapter.
Yeah, after that accident, I had a conversation with my father. I told him, I really want to go to India. I really need to get out of here. Like there's some sense of urgency.
How old were you?
23-ish.
Wow.
Something.
Mara asked the question because they can't hear her. Were you paralyzed at the time?
Paralyzed from neck down.
That's
And
pretty paralyzed. I mean,
yeah.
you could smile
Yeah.
and
could
stick out your
smile.
tongue occasionally when you're unhappy, but
So they
otherwise,
took me out on a stretcher,
Oh my
and then
God.
I was crying in the hospital, begging Krishna, like, please bring me close to your lotus feet. Like, I'll do anything, like I'll broom the temple room. I'll wash pots again. I'll do all the, transferring prashadam, whatever you need me to do. Just get me out
He's
of
like
it.
all these horrible things. I transfer, I'll sweep, I'll wash. What else you got?
So, and then some devotee here, his name is Ganasham. He lives in Europe now. He did a Nrsingadev Yagya for me.
Oh, wow.
And within a week, I was in Vrindavan. After Vrindavan, I was here in Mayapur.
Wait. What happened to the paralyzation?
It got away.
Slowly.
Somehow, some way, it cured itself, I guess.
Wow.
I don't know how that happened.
Thank God.
But like everything was stiff. I just know
Right.
too much drug abuse.
Wow.
So
was it easy to get out of your addiction, or was that another special gift?
I had to get away from the place. So my advice to anyone who has addiction, who's a devotee, move.
I like it.
Move from your environment where you cannot access these things. That's the
Sure.
first thing to do. Just move.
Although I heard addicts, from what I understand of addicts, is they somehow find it.
They somehow find
They
it, but come to a place where you can't find it.
Yeah. Anyway, that is one good option, especially if it's being pushed on you on a regular
Right,
basis.
If it's in America, it's available. So I had to like really go cold turkey.
It's it's such a great analogy for finding Krishna. In the same way, like I'm sure there's heroin right here in Sridham Mayapur, but because I'm not looking for it, I'm not going to find it. And in the same way, Krishna is actually everywhere.
Yeah.
But you just got to look for Krishna. He's right there. And we just got to ask, where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? And Krishna will come.
Yeah.
So, okay. So now you were paralyzed, head down or neck down. And you prayed to Krishna, I'll do anything for you. I'll even do the transfer.
Yeah.
And then you end up in your father arranged for you to go to Vrindavan?
Yeah. He was kind of shocked that I wanted to go to India because I never had a desire to go to India.
Wow.
Like I came a couple of times and I'm like,
well, you got wrapped up in the culture of America.
Yeah, I was
cars
I can't leave all of this stuff, for like chump change here. Like, no way. So
how'd you do that? How'd you cut all that due to the trauma that you went through physically?
That was my decision.
That's it. That's beautiful.
That's
it,
decision.
man. That decision, you just cut it.
If you can help yourself, God will help you. Krishna will help you. If you want, he can give you anything you want. Just like I wanted that lifestyle, I actually asked Krishna for that. I was like, yeah, I want, I want the gun, I want the money, I want the drugs, I want everything, because that's all I see. And not having good association is, again, it comes down to association again.
Sure. Who'd you become friends with? What was your next step?
Next step,
like, okay, I'm in Vrindavan and I like this. I want to get back to who I was as a child, which is pretty interesting because that was your whole life. That wasn't just,
Yeah, me attending kirtan, and just understanding and seeing people so happy, and like me just coming off of this hardcore drug, I didn't tell anyone at that time.
Sure.
So, because obviously they'll judge, So I just saw how devotees were so happy. And like, I was like, and then in Vrindavan, I took a breath, like, I can take a breath. I don't have to carry guns and crack my neck back every 2 seconds, who's following me and like all of this stuff.
There's something to be said about dancing around a room with a bunch of happy people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not having to worry who's going to shoot you in the back of the head. That's
Yeah.
something wonderful about that.
Of course.
I mean, the mode. Now, I'm not even talking about mode of goodness. I'm talking about people actually dancing out of their mind at 4:30 in the morning. Like, where do you find that type of peculiar ritual happening?
Yeah.
And when does it happen? Once a month, during the lunar eclipse no, it happens every morning
every morning.
all around the world. You just got to show up at 4:30 and you can be part of it.
Yeah, even Guru Puja, like I really like Guru Puja, and I started attending more, and I started to listen to a lot of devotees, and I shared a little bit with them, about my past. I really can't hide it with my face, you know, um, it's there, I had to explain myself, so it kind of, you know, even with I'm gonna mention Namras, with his podcast,
Sure.
it kind of
So
like
just
I
for our
have to,
people out there, that Govinda Prabhu was also on the Nam Ross podcast. So you
yeah.
can check out his interview there
Yeah.
because I'm sure it's going to be a different flavor of what this is.
Yeah, I told him, this one will be better, next one, if we do one. Um, anyways, but I think association, hanging around with devotees,
Mm.
like the new generation that's coming up, we have to somehow, create space for them so they can be connected always.
Mm.
A lot of the ex coolies, they don't have any connection. They cut all ties, they're engaged in some other activities.
Sure.
And to get them back is uh it's like heaven and earth. I spoke to a few of them. They really don't want to come back.
Sure.
But they miss it.
Yeah.
They
There's
miss it.
something that, and part of that second generation's, their path is to realize the value.
Hmm.
And sometimes people have to go out and do their own thing first
Right.
to realize, wow, there's a value in community. There's a value in ethics. There's a value in raising your children with God in their life somewhat.
Yeah, like even with movies and all these things, a lot of people are infatuated by the thought of like a utopian, city, a
Right.
utopian world.
We got that.
We got that, and I'm telling you,
Check.
Sri Ram Mayapur is that. It's
Is
gonna become that.
Yeah.
And I understand we all, have a lot of things from the past to work with, you know, but we gotta keep focus on our spiritual path, you know.
I like how you say that too. It's like you're coming in with some baggage and some good baggage and some bad baggage.
Yeah.
And I'm coming in with my own types of baggage that I bring in. Everyone's got their own baggage, so to speak, as we come into the circle. But there's one point in the center.
Right.
And we understand like that point is not us. We're actually like satellites around that point.
Right.
And in that sense, there can be some type of utopia at best. I mean, it's the material world and we're plagued by material problems. But there's no material solution. There's only a spiritual
Yeah,
solution.
there's no
So even with all its problems, it's always going to have problems. Our spiritual life is like we're in the hospital. And I can't expect everybody to be in a top fit, CrossFit condition in the hospital. We're all here because we've recognized we're a little sick and we want something better.
Of course.
And we're over our past. And so you're such a shining example of that, Prabhu.
Trying to be,
Yeah.
aspiring to be. And I think Sri Ram Mayapur, it's like a rehabilitation center. I spiritually, I feel that, because here, I have realized, how to control my anger, how to be humble, a lot of experiences here and association with so many wonderful devotees here have changed the nature in me. I still have some of that in me.
You got a little something in you? What do you got? You got a little aggressive, a little tough, or a little.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you know what? And you told me you're engaged. You got this karma that you can't help it. It's that karma. It's so like a training, so to speak, a street smart, so to speak, and it's being properly engaged. You work security here. You're part of the security team,
Yeah.
and whenever you have a organization, you need security. That's
Yeah.
what warriors do. They protect the vulnerables, and I think that's like an important thing. And things get attacked all the time,
Yeah,
and
of course.
and so it's a necessity. But deep down, you understand. Okay, that's part of my external karma,
Mhm.
but it's not my swadharma, my internal dharma. My internal dharma is I'm a spirit soul.
Yeah.
So it seems like you're appropriately engaged, appropriately on the path, and appropriately walked away from so much. Now, did you ever get people, friends, haunting memories that are sort of dragging you back to that world? I mean, because they're your friends also,
Yeah, there's a lot of people who ask me these questions.
girlfriends even.
They ask me some questions, I'm happy to answer, you know. I don't mind it too much because I understand, they don't know the experience,
Sure.
or they want to understand how does that happen, like some people, some devotees, like some Bengali devotees or Indian devotees, they're like, how can you do this, Prabhu? You know, like you come from a good family, right? Chicago, like I have experienced Chicago.
You haven't
Trust
driven
me.
a Nissan.
Yeah, if you were on the hood, Prabhu, then you would know.
But
So
what about your gang friends, gang girlfriends? Did they say, "What are you doing? Get back here"?
that's funny that you asked me. A lot of people want me back, but then one of, like, I guess he's one of the head
Mm.
in Chicago. He told me, I told him about my religion.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like the same. We have a God that's half lion, half man. Wears a crown. Like wears black and gold. You know, uh, so he told me, you're a king, you're a man. First, you're a man
Mm.
before anything, and you got to do what you have to do.
Noble
Go,
advice, right?
yeah. And he's been in there for 50 years.
Wow.
And he's still there.
Mm.
But he told me, get out because I see a lot of potential in you. I know there's something different about you.
Mm.
I don't care what anyone says here. I'll take care of that. But you go do you.
Wow.
And those are the last words he told me. And I really took that. And after my father passed away, I kind of did relapse. Sorry.
Mm.
I was confused.
Sure.
Not having a father figure, it's like almost.
How old were you, and how old was he?
I was. This was 4 years ago, so
Mm.
before COVID,
28,
2019,
20.
2019.
Okay.
So I kind of relapsed there. Went back to the gang, joined them, and then I really thought this one time when I was really drunk and really high, I was like, "Is this what I want to do for the rest of my life?
Mm.
Is this what my parents sacrificed, all those hours in the temple, raising us, this and that, am I just gonna let it go again? All the association of all the wonderful devotees, am I just gonna throw it in the trash?
Wow.
So I really had to be honest with myself.
I'm ready to see the movie of this. See
I
that.
mean, if there was a movie made, it would be like Scarface, it would be like Goodfellas, it would be like Godfather, with my boys. But they're good men, but they have no direction, no religion.
Mm.
I mean, believe in they're Catholics, but
Yeah.
going to church only on Sunday doesn't help. You know,
And so then you had to make another decision.
I had to make another decision whether I'm gonna stay and become a head like one of him,
Sure.
like an enforcer. I was an enforcer in my in my gang, but like there was another position that was offered to me. That's like a regional officer. So I was really contemplating if I wanted to do that or not. So, but I chose Krishna ultimately in the
And they were good with that.
end.
All right.
They were good with that. They were
Good.
good with
Harry
that.
Bull.
Yeah.
Your story's great, Prabhu. I thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for.
I really
having me.
appreciate your vulnerability. And I think a lot of the devotees don't judge so much. I think sometimes there's high bars, but I that lives by. But I think this new generation of Krishna consciousness is a little bit more understanding. I feel like I see it different. I see people differently now, and I think a lot of our community, when they hear your story and see your vulnerability, what they think is this guy's damn sincere. I don't think they're thinking, well, how dare he? I think he's like, this
Try
guy's
to be
sincere, and we wholeheartedly embrace you. Thank you for being part of the community.
Thank you for having me on here.
All right, Prabhu.
Harry Bull.
Harry Bull. Good job. Thanks, everybody. Join us tomorrow. We're doing 3 other types of gangs. 3 scientists. 3 scientists are coming on the show. They're going to talk about their crazy past and how they're building this Vedic planetarium, which was Prabhupada's vision here in Mayapur, the biggest dome in the world. Quite fascinating. Biggest dome in India, I think. The biggest temple in India. And it's not just an ordinary planetarium. It's a planetarium, how it's viewed through the eyes of the Vedas. Completely different, including demigods and devis. And it's going to be a massive museum. And it's not just fairy tale stuff. They're going to explain to you why it's not fairy tale and the potency in the Vedas and how the whole scientific community, they're having paradigm shifts of what they once thought was reality 25 years ago. The scientific community is also changing, and we're going to chime in on that. So stay tuned for us tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern Time.
It's a beautiful day, every beautiful day, and a Maha Hari Bo. Mwah.